The Miracle Morning, the not-so-obvious secret guaranteed to transform your life before 8 a.m. by Hal Elrod. Picture this. It's 11:32 at night, and a gleaming white Ford Mustang is tearing down the freeway at 70 miles per hour. Behind the wheel sits 20-year-old Hal Elrod, probably grinning from ear to ear. And why wouldn't he be? The guy's living his best life, crushing it at a huge marketing company, madly in love with his girlfriend, surrounded by an amazing family, and the kind of friends most people only find in movies. Just 2 hours ago, he delivered the speech of his lifetime and earned his very first standing ovation. If there's such a thing as being on top of the world, Hal was practically floating above it. He had absolutely no idea that in mere seconds, everything was about to come crashing down. Without warning, headlights exploded out of the darkness, a massive Chevrolet truck barreling straight toward him. The driver was drunk, traveling at over 80 miles per hour. The horrifying shriek of metal, tearing into metal, was the last sound Hal registered before the airbags detonated, knocking him unconscious. His brain slammed violently into the front of his skull, obliterating a significant portion of his frontal lobe. The collision was so catastrophic that a 16-year-old driver following behind couldn't stop in time and plowed into Hal's driver's side door at 70 miles per hour. The roof crumpled onto his head like a tin can. His left arm snapped, his elbow shattered into pieces, his pelvis fractured in 3 separate places. His femur, the biggest, strongest bone in the human body, broke clean in half. When emergency crews arrived at the scene, they had to cut his mangled body from the wreckage using the jaws of life. As they extracted him, his heart stopped. His breathing ceased. By every medical definition, Hal Elrod was dead. For 6 full minutes, he was gone. But what happened next? Well, let's just say it defied every expectation. Paramedics refused to give up, working frantically, and somehow, against every odd stacked against them, they brought him back. Hal spent 6 days in a coma, only to wake up to news that would crush most people. He had permanent brain damage and would probably never walk again. This is usually where these stories end, right? The tragic conclusion, the cautionary tale. But for Hal, this nightmare was actually just the opening chapter. This absolutely devastating catastrophe became the unlikely foundation for a worldwide movement. A book that sold millions of copies, and a beautifully simple yet deeply powerful concept that's transformed countless lives across the globe. It's a concept promising that you can wake up every single day living up to your full potential. Today, we're diving deep into that very idea. We're about to explore the beating heart of Hal Elrod's extraordinary book, The Miracle Morning. And here's my promise to you. By the time we're done, you'll completely understand the not-so-obvious secret that can fundamentally reshape not just your mornings, but the entire direction of your life. You'll discover how one man, who stared death in the face and wrestled with utter despair not once but twice, stumbled upon a framework so incredibly powerful that it can lift anyone, no matter their circumstances, from a life of going through the motions to one of genuine fulfillment. So, are you ready? Let's dive in. Have you ever felt it? That persistent whisper deep inside telling you you're capable of so much more? That nagging sense that there's a better, stronger, more vibrant version of yourself just waiting to break free, but somehow you feel completely stuck? You know exactly what you should be doing. Hitting the gym, reading those books piling up on your nightstand, actually working on those big goals. But you just can't seem to carve out the time or summon the motivation. Life has this frustrating way of getting in the way. You wake up already exhausted, race through your day like you're being chased, and collapse into bed feeling like you barely survived, let alone thrived. Sound painfully familiar? Well, here's the thing. You're definitely not alone. In fact, you're in the company of roughly 95% of everyone out there. That's a pretty staggering number when you think about it, right? According to the Social Security Administration, if you track 100 people from the day they start their careers all the way through 40 years later, only one will end up wealthy. 4 will be financially comfortable. The other 95? They'll still be grinding away, struggling to make ends meet. Or worse, they'll have settled for a life of mediocrity, not because that's what they dreamed of, but because they never consciously decided to break free from it. This is what Hal Elrod calls the 95% reality check. It's that quiet desperation most people carry around every single day. They're a bit overweight, carrying a bit too much debt, and just slightly unhappy with their jobs. They live with this constant, low-grade sense of regret, always knowing in their gut they could have been more, done more, and had so much more. So here's the million-dollar question. How do you break into that top 5%? How do you escape the gravitational pull of mediocrity that seems to hold nearly everyone down? Here's the truth. It's not about luck. It's not about being born with some special talent. It's about recognizing and understanding the invisible forces that make us settle for less. Hal identifies several of these forces, and the first one might just be the most powerful. He calls it rear-view mirror syndrome. Every single one of us has a rear-view mirror in our minds, and we spend way too much time staring into it. We're constantly reliving and recreating our past. We genuinely believe that who we were is who we are. Full stop. We filter every decision, every dream, every possibility through the narrow lens of our past experiences. If we failed before, we expect to fail again. If we've never achieved something at a certain level, we just assume we can't. Here's a wild fact. Research shows the average person has somewhere between 50,000 and 60,000 thoughts every single day. But here's the problem. 95% of those thoughts are exactly the same ones we had yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that. We're literally programming ourselves on repeat to stay exactly where we are. Another reason people stay stuck is that we tend to isolate incidents. We tell ourselves things like, "Oh, it's really no big deal if I hit snooze this morning," or "Skipping one workout won't kill me," or "Eating this junk food is fine. I'll definitely do better tomorrow." We make the critical mistake of thinking each choice only affects that single moment. But Hal argues this couldn't be further from the truth. How you do anything is how you do everything. Every single time you hit that snooze button, you're not just choosing 10 extra minutes of sleep. You're programming your mind that it's perfectly okay to not follow through on your commitments. You're actively shaping your identity into someone who consistently takes the easy way out. Each small, seemingly insignificant choice compounds, ultimately defining who you're becoming, which directly determines the quality of your entire life. And perhaps the biggest culprit is also the simplest, a complete lack of urgency. We all walk around with this someday mindset. Someday I'll get in shape. Someday I'll write that book. Someday I'll launch that business. But here's the harsh truth. Someday is a disease that will carry your dreams straight to the grave with you. Now is literally the only time you actually have. What you do today is determining who you're becoming, and who you're becoming is determining exactly where you'll end up. Hal Elrod didn't learn these truths from textbooks or seminars. He learned them through absolutely crushing personal pain. You see, that devastating car accident wasn't even his only rock bottom. In fact, he'll tell you his second one was actually harder to endure. It was 2007. The United States economy had just imploded. Almost overnight, Hal's income got slashed in half. His successful coaching business was failing before his eyes. His clients simply couldn't afford him anymore. He'd just purchased his first home, and now he couldn't make the mortgage payments. He found himself drowning in $425,000 of debt. For the first time in his entire life, he plunged into severe depression. He says this period was somehow worse than being clinically dead. After his accident, people surrounded him with care. Visitors came by. Doctors and nurses attended to him. But this time, he was completely on his own. He felt overwhelmed by fear and this crushing sense of hopelessness. The only comfort he could find was crawling into bed each night to temporarily escape his problems. He even had fleeting thoughts of suicide, not because he'd ever actually act on them, but because he simply couldn't see any way out of the unbearable pain. He'd hit his second rock bottom, and it felt even darker than the first. And it was right here, in this place of absolute desperation, that the seed of the miracle morning began to sprout. A friend, watching him struggle, offered some refreshingly simple advice. "Hal," he said, "just start running. It'll help you feel better and think more clearly." Now, Hal absolutely hated running, but when you're desperate, you'll try anything. So one morning, he laced up his old basketball shoes, grabbed a dusty iPod, and headed out for a run. As he jogged along, listening to a personal development recording by the legendary Jim Rohn, he heard a sentence that literally stopped him in his tracks. Rohn said, "Your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development, because success is something you attract by the person you become." It hit him like a tidal wave. In that single moment, everything became crystal clear. He wanted a level 10 life, level 10 health, level 10 wealth, level 10 happiness. But his actual level of personal development? It was hovering around a 2, maybe a 3 on a good day. This, he suddenly realized, is the fundamental problem for all of us. We desperately want a level 10 life, but if we're not actively, deliberately developing ourselves into a level 10 person, life will always feel like an uphill battle. Our outer world is always a direct reflection of our inner world. He literally ran straight home, filled with this completely new sense of purpose. He knew the solution. He had to dedicate time every single day to his personal development. He had to become the person he needed to be to create the life he desperately wanted. But then came the next challenge, the one we all bump into, actually finding the time. He was already stretched impossibly thin just trying to survive. Where could he possibly squeeze this in? The evening? No way. That was his only time with his fiancée. The middle of the day? Yeah, right. Extra time never magically appears during the workday. Then he considered the one time slot he absolutely dreaded most, the morning. He was emphatically not a morning person. Dragging himself out of bed at 6 a.m. was already a daily struggle. The thought of waking up at 5 a.m. seemed completely insane. But then he remembered something his mentor, Kevin Bracey, always told him. "Hal, if you want your life to be different, you have to be willing to do something different first." He knew it was absolutely true, so he made a decision. He would wake up at 5 a.m. the very next morning. But then came the next question. What would he actually do during that hour? He didn't want to just randomly read or exercise. He wanted to do the things that would create the biggest impact in the shortest time. So he grabbed a piece of paper and started writing down all the most powerful personal development practices he'd learned over the years but had never consistently stuck with. Things like meditation, affirmations, visualization, journaling, and exercise. He chose 6 specific activities and decided to spend 10 minutes on each one. That night, he could barely sleep, but for once, it wasn't because of anxiety. For the first time in what felt like forever, he was genuinely excited for morning to arrive. When that alarm shrieked at 5 a.m., his eyes shot wide open. He didn't even think about hitting snooze. He practically leaped out of bed, feeling this surge of energy. He said it felt exactly like being a kid on Christmas morning. He made his way to his living room couch, and one by one he worked through his brand new routine. First up, silence. For 10 full minutes he just sat. He prayed, he meditated, he focused completely on his breathing. He felt the stress literally melting away from his body. This beautiful sense of calm and peace washed over him like a warm wave. Next came affirmations. He pulled out an affirmation from the classic book Think and Grow Rich and read it out loud, reminding himself of his unlimited potential. Then he wrote his own, getting crystal clear on exactly who he was committed to being and what specific actions he was committed to taking to transform his life. He felt genuinely empowered for the first time in months. Then, visualization. He dug out a vision board he'd created years ago but rarely ever looked at. For 10 solid minutes, he closed his eyes and truly felt what it would be like to achieve each of his goals. He didn't just see them, he felt them. He felt inspired in a way he'd almost forgotten was possible. After that came exercise. He remembered Tony Robbins always saying, "Motion creates emotion." He dropped to the floor and cranked out push-ups and sit-ups, then followed along with 6 minutes of a yoga video on YouTube. He felt his energy absolutely skyrocket. Next up was reading. He grabbed a book he'd started but never finished, Napoleon Hill's timeless classic, Think and Grow Rich. He read for 10 minutes and picked up practical ideas he could actually use that very day. He felt motivated and ready to take action. Finally, scribing, or as most of us call it, writing. He opened a blank journal, and for the first time in what felt like forever, he started to write. He poured out everything he was grateful for onto the page. Almost immediately, he felt his depression beginning to lift. It wasn't magically gone, but it definitely felt lighter, more manageable. By 6 a.m., he'd just experienced one of the most peaceful, motivating, and empowering hours of his entire life. This simple daily routine became his lifeline out of the darkness. His stress levels dropped dramatically. His energy and mental clarity shot through the roof. Those dark thoughts of depression gradually faded into a distant memory. In less than 2 months, his income wasn't just back to where it was before the crash. It was actually higher than it had ever been. The transformation was so profound and happened so quickly that it genuinely felt like a miracle. And that's exactly what he decided to call it, the miracle morning. He started sharing this routine with his coaching clients. A woman named Katie, who would swear up and down that she was absolutely not a morning person, decided to give it a shot. A week later, she was practically on fire, calling Hal to tell him she now woke up at 5 a.m. every single day because she genuinely loved it that much. Before long, complete strangers were posting all over social media about their own miracle mornings. He even stumbled across a video on YouTube from a guy named Joe Diosana, who was filming himself at 5:41 in the morning on a Sunday. Joe looked straight into the camera with this genuine joy radiating from his face and said, "It feels like Christmas to me, honestly. It's like Christmas every single day now." That's when it hit Hal like a lightning bolt. He had a real responsibility to share this with the entire world. The miracle morning wasn't just his personal routine anymore. It was becoming a full-blown movement. At the core of this movement are the 6 practices he discovered during that first transformative morning. He turned them into a memorable acronym to make them super easy to remember. LIFE. SAVERS. The S stands for silence. In our incredibly noisy, frantically paced world, this might actually be the most crucial practice of all. It's not just about the absence of noise. It's about purposeful, intentional silence. This could mean meditation, prayer, deep breathing exercises, or simply quiet reflection and gratitude. Starting your day with even just a few minutes of purposeful silence dramatically reduces stress, significantly increases self-awareness, and gives you the mental clarity to focus on what truly matters. It's about calming the chaos swirling in your mind before the day even begins, so you can start from a place of genuine peace and presence instead of panic. The A is for affirmations. All of us have this constant internal dialogue running through our heads all day long, every single day. For most people, that dialogue is completely unconscious and depressingly negative, constantly replaying old fears and deep-seated insecurities. Affirmations are about finally taking control of that self-talk. It's about proactively designing and actually writing down what you want to achieve, who you need to become to achieve it, and why it genuinely matters to you. By reading these affirmations out loud every single day with real emotion behind them, you gradually begin to reprogram your subconscious mind. You start overwriting your limiting beliefs with genuinely empowering ones. Hal himself used this exact technique to overcome his belief that he had a horrible memory after his brain damage. He affirmed every single day that his memory was excellent and getting better all the time, and incredibly, within just 2 months, his actual reality began to match his affirmation. The V stands for visualization. This is the practice of creating a vivid, clear mental picture of exactly what you want to achieve. But it's not just about seeing the end result in your mind's eye. It's also about mentally rehearsing the specific steps you'll need to take to actually get there. You see yourself performing your tasks with complete ease and confidence. You genuinely feel the emotions of success before you've even achieved it in reality. This primes your brain for actual success and generates the motivation you desperately need to take action, especially on those days when you really don't feel like it. Celebrities from Will Smith to Oprah have publicly sworn by this practice, using it to visualize their massive success long before it became their reality. The E is for exercise. Morning exercise is absolutely non-negotiable for high achievers. Even just a few minutes of getting your heart rate up, jumping jacks, push-ups, a brisk walk around the block, or some simple yoga dramatically boosts your energy, significantly enhances your mental clarity, and improves your emotional well-being for the entire rest of the day. It floods your brain with fresh oxygen and feel-good endorphins, making you sharper, more focused, and genuinely more positive. The absolute beauty of doing it first thing in the morning is that you get it completely done before the day has any chance to drain your willpower and hand you 1,000 convenient excuses not to. The R stands for reading. Reading is honestly the fastest track to transforming absolutely any area of your life. If you want to achieve anything at all, the quickest way is to learn directly from the experts who've already done exactly what you're trying to do. There are books on literally every subject you could possibly imagine. Hal recommends a beautifully simple commitment. Read just 10 pages every single day. It doesn't sound like much at all, right? But if you stick with that tiny commitment every day, it adds up to 650 pages over the course of a year. That's roughly 18 200-page books. Just imagine how much more knowledgeable, capable, and confident you would be after reading 18 carefully chosen books on personal development in the next year alone. And finally, the second S is for scribing, or as most of us know it, writing in a journal. Getting your swirling thoughts out of your head and down onto paper provides this incredible sense of clarity. It allows you to document your insights, your ideas, your breakthroughs, and the important lessons you're learning along the way. It's also an incredibly powerful way to practice gratitude and genuinely acknowledge your progress. At the end of each year, flipping back through your journal entries is one of the most rewarding things you can possibly do. You see with crystal clarity how far you've actually come, you rediscover lessons you'd completely forgotten, and you dramatically accelerate your growth trajectory for the year ahead. Now you might be thinking, this all sounds absolutely fantastic, but a whole hour? I definitely don't have a full hour. And Hal totally thought of that. He actually created a 6-minute version of the Miracle Morning specifically for those mornings when you're incredibly pressed for time. Imagine this. Minute 1. You sit in purposeful silence, breathing slowly and deeply, feeling yourself becoming calm and centered. Minute 2. You read your affirmations out loud with emotion, reminding yourself of your goals and your incredible potential. Minute 3. You close your eyes and vividly visualize your day unfolding perfectly. Minute 4. You quickly write down one specific thing you're genuinely grateful for and identify your one top priority for the day. Minute 5. You read just one page from an inspiring self-help book. Minute 6. You spend 60 energizing seconds moving your body, jumping jacks, push-ups, running in place, whatever gets your blood pumping. 6 minutes. That's literally all it takes. Absolutely anyone can find 6 minutes somewhere. It's a powerful, highly focused ritual that sets the perfect tone for a productive and positive day, no matter how crazy busy you might be. But here's the thing. Knowing what to do is honestly only half the battle. The real challenge, the part where most people completely fall apart, is actually making it stick as a genuine habit. How many times have you started some new routine, full of excitement and motivation, only to completely fall off the wagon a week or two later? This is precisely where most people fail spectacularly. But Hal provides a specific, battle-tested strategy for this too, and honestly, it's one of the most valuable parts of the entire book. He breaks down the process of forming any new habit into a structured 30-day challenge, divided into 3 distinct 10-day phases. Phase 1, days 1 to 10, is called unbearable. The first 10 days are absolutely, brutally the hardest. The novelty wears off fast, and harsh reality sets in. Your body actively resists. Your mind constantly complains. If your new habit is waking up early, this is when you'll feel completely exhausted and have the strongest, most overwhelming urge to hit that snooze button. This is exactly where 95% of people throw in the towel and quit. They mistakenly believe that this miserable feeling is how the new habit will always feel forever. But here's the powerful secret: knowing that this phase is completely temporary. If you know it's going to be unbearable for just 10 days, not forever, just 10 days, you can absolutely push through it. Phase 2, days 11 to 20, is called uncomfortable. Once you power through those first brutal 10 days, things genuinely start to get easier. The habit is no longer unbearable, but it's definitely still uncomfortable. You're gradually getting used to it, but it doesn't quite feel natural yet. It still requires real discipline and conscious commitment. The temptation to slide back into your comfortable old ways is still lurking around, but it's noticeably weaker than before. Phase 3, days 21 to 30, is called unstoppable. This is the home stretch, and it's honestly where the real magic happens. After about 21 days, the habit is genuinely formed in your brain. Now you spend the final 10 days reinforcing it and actively associating pleasure with it. You start feeling genuinely proud of yourself. The habit stops being something you consciously do and starts becoming an integral part of who you actually are. You no longer think of yourself as someone who's trying to wake up early. You now genuinely identify as a morning person. This is the absolutely crucial phase that cements the habit solidly for life. Hal himself lived through this exact process when he decided to become a runner. Remember, he absolutely hated running with a passion. But he fully committed to this 30-day strategy. The first 10 days were pure, unadulterated pain. The next 10 were uncomfortable, but definitely manageable. And by those final 10 days, something incredible happened. He was actually starting to enjoy it. Just a few months later, this guy who genuinely hated running completed an absolutely grueling 52-mile ultramarathon. Let that sink in for a second. He proved conclusively that you don't have to be born with discipline or willpower, you can systematically build it. And this 30-day framework is your exact blueprint for doing exactly that. The miracle morning, then, is so much more than just a simple morning routine. It's an entire philosophy. It's this radical, life-changing idea that the first hour of your day is like the rudder that steers the massive ship of your entire day. A focused, productive, energized morning inevitably generates a focused, productive, successful day, which absolutely creates a successful life over time. In exactly the same way, an unfocused, lazy, hit-the-snooze-button morning generates an unfocused, mediocre day and ultimately a mediocre life. It really all comes down to a single choice. The choice to finally stop settling for less than you deserve. The choice to stop constantly looking in that rearview mirror and start actively creating a genuinely compelling future. And the choice to dedicate time, real, protected, non-negotiable time, every single day, to becoming the person you absolutely need to be, to create the life you truly want deep down. Because as Hal Elrod discovered in the absolute depths of his darkest despair, where you are right now is simply a result of who you were, but where you go from here depends entirely on who you deliberately choose to be, starting from this very moment. When you really strip everything down to its essence, the miracle morning is built on a single, incredibly powerful truth. Your life only gets better after you get better. It's such a simple idea, almost deceptively so, but it's definitely not an easy one to actually live by. It asks you to take complete, unflinching ownership of your entire life. It says that no matter what your circumstances look like, no matter what's happened in your past, you genuinely have the power to completely change your future by changing who you are, starting right now, today. What I find so genuinely compelling about this book isn't just the what, the 6 practices that make up the life, SAVERS, but the why and the how behind everything. The why is Hal Elrod's absolutely incredible story. This isn't some abstract theory dreamed up by an academic sitting comfortably in an ivory tower. This is a practical system forged in the absolute fires of unimaginable adversity. When a man who was literally declared clinically dead, who was told with certainty he would never walk again, and who later lost absolutely everything and fell into a crushing depression, tells you he found a way out, you really, really listen. His story gives these practices a weight and an authenticity they simply wouldn't have otherwise. And the how is that brilliant 30-day habit formation strategy. This is honestly where the book becomes truly, genuinely practical and applicable. So many self-help books out there tell you exactly what you should do, but they completely fail to give you a realistic, actionable plan for actually integrating those ideas into your messy, complicated real life. Hal totally acknowledges up front that real change is genuinely hard. He tells you straight up, with complete honesty, that the first 10 days are going to be, quote, unbearable. That level of honesty is incredibly refreshing, and it's surprisingly empowering. When you know to expect the struggle ahead of time, you're no longer a helpless victim of it. You're fully prepared for it. You can see it for exactly what it is, a temporary toll you have to pay on the road to becoming genuinely unstoppable. The most profound lesson in this entire book, at least for me personally, is this idea of waking up with genuine purpose, not just grudgingly responding to an alarm clock. For most of us, the morning is purely reactive. We wake up because we have to be somewhere, do something, answer to someone else. We start our entire day already in a state of resistance and resentment. The miracle morning completely flips that frustrating dynamic on its head. It transforms the first hour of your day into this proactive, deeply intentional time, dedicated entirely to your most important asset, you. It's a powerful daily declaration that your personal growth genuinely matters. It's a serious commitment to actively designing your life, not just passively defaulting to whatever comes your way. If there's one single thing you can take away from our journey today and apply immediately, let it be this. Try the 6-minute miracle morning tomorrow. Don't overthink it even a little bit. Don't stress about doing it perfectly. Just set your alarm exactly 6 minutes earlier than usual. Before you reach for your phone, before you let the chaos and demands of the world come flooding in, give yourself those 6 precious minutes. 1 minute for each of the life, SAVERS. See how it actually feels. See how it genuinely changes the entire tone of your day. It's such a small investment of time, but the returns, as literally thousands have discovered firsthand, can be absolutely miraculous. That was a summary of The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. We've touched on the main ideas today, but remember, a summary is a bit like looking at a photograph of a breathtaking landscape. It gives you a general sense of its beauty, but it can never truly replace the full experience of actually being there yourself. The real magic of a book like this happens in those quiet, personal moments of reading, when a particular story, or even just a simple sentence, connects with you in a way you absolutely didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this journey is one you genuinely want to take for yourself. If anything we've talked about today has struck a chord with you, I really encourage you to grab a copy and read it yourself. Reading it isn't just about learning new information. It's a genuine experience that can truly change how you greet each new day. You can find a link to the book in the description right below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and helpful, please take just a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. That way you definitely won't miss our next deep dive into another potentially life-changing book. Let's keep growing and learning together.